remember the game 20 Questions? It's that old parlor game where one person thinks of something and you can ask 20 questions to determine what it is. And if you figure it out in less than 20 questions, you win. If it takes longer, they win. Okay, so I'm thinking of something.
Okay.
Go.
Is it a cow?
Very funny.
Seriously, if we were playing for real, you always start with the same opening question, which is it an animal, vegetable, mineral, or other? And then the rest are yes or no questions, like, was it used 100 years ago, or could I find it at the zoo?
So, whether you're in a group setting or on your own as a couple, take 3 minutes or so to play a round of 20 questions yourselves. Just to underscore this important point, one person thinks of something and the other person, or the rest of the group, tries to guess it. Ready? Go. Okay, so this was a pretty lighthearted example of the power of asking questions. And if you were able to guess whatever the one person was thinking of, it's because you were asking quality questions. In fact, using them as a tool to get where you wanted to go.
A few days before we meet with our marriage mentors, they will send us a list of questions, maybe about 2 to 4 questions, and they ask us to answer them, and we print them off, answer our own questions, by ourselves, and then whenever we get together, we openly discuss our answers.
I like to get into the deeper subjects too. I sort of like the harder issues, not to make people squirm, but just
right.
Those are the things that possibly cause the most tension or escalate up and down as you go through lives, bigger issues like that.
One of the questions they asked us was, how are you communicating with each other, and are there any issues? On the surface, that question seems really easy. But then you start thinking about, there's a lot of different levels to that, and so you start getting into these questions and brings out a lot of different issues in your life.
When it comes to marriage mentoring, that's the thing. You're never going to find out the heart of the matter, what that person's really thinking or feeling, unless you become skilled at asking good questions.
When Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free," we found if we don't ask those questions, sometimes the secrecy keeps anything from being freed up. And the more we sensitively probe and ask a question maybe where we can tell they really don't want us to go there.
Right.
But if you just gently peel it back, then you finally see that there's growth because we've uncovered it.
Right.
It's safe.
Exactly.
We should stress, though, that unlike the game 20 Questions, it's certainly not about interrogation. You don't want to bombard your mentorees with questions to get to know their heart.
No, a few meaningful questions will get you where you need to go in your mentoring sessions.
One thing we found with marriage mentoring is it's more about listening and asking the right questions than it is about having the perfect answer.
Or doling out advice.
Yeah. That's really the most important part. And what we found is that oftentimes it's asking the right questions and listening to the answer and then asking the follow-up questions, which are going to bring out the specific areas that need to be worked on.
There's no doubt about it. Quality questions are designed to open up a person's spirit.
So it wasn't even just that that she knew everything and I knew nothing. It was that we were going to walk through this journey together. Mm-hmm. And there were times where she had questions and she wanted to know about something that I might know something about. And so we would talk about it specifically. And that made me feel that I was invested in the relationship too a little bit more.
Consciously or unconsciously, people crave to be known and appreciated. So a meaningful question invites vulnerability, but it's not invasive.
No, it's personal, but it still respects privacy.
It's genuine, but it's not blunt.
From the beginning, they just would ask us these wonderful questions.
What was your first date? What was it like the first time you saw your spouse after you're married? Those kind of things. And so what all that did is it broke down a lot of walls immediately and helped us to get to know each other.
Some of the best questions aren't really questions at all. They're really statements that encourage a person to share what's on their heart. Things like, sounds like that's important to you.
Or maybe something like, I'm guessing you have some feelings about that.
You're not asking direct questions, but you're inviting them to go deeper.
Usually it's tell us what you're feeling about that. Or, we look at the spouse and say, did you know she was feeling that way? What do you think about that? And so just trying to get them, and all of a sudden you'll get them turning towards each other, and they have an interaction then, and we get to just kind of participate quietly.
Probably the hardest part about that is not saying, yeah, but here's how you fix it.
Now, there's one question to always keep in the forefront of your mind as you're mentoring. How's this couple doing?
When they would ask us, how's it going, for instance, you very much had a sense that they weren't just asking a surface question. They were looking deeply into our lives and really wanting to know in a meaningful and loving way, how's it going? And that we could speak to them sort of with reckless abandon.
It's so true. As you develop as marriage mentors, you'll find that more than anything, keeping your mentoree couple's well-being in mind is what will make all the other meaningful questions come naturally.
As we begin this next part of the session, we'd like you to think about this. As marriage mentors, how many distractions do you have in motion at any one time?
Let's face it, we all have distractions. The thing is, as you approach your mentoring sessions, it's really important to spend some time not in winding up, but in winding down the distractions, both external and internal, so you can really focus on your mentorees.
In fact, the only thing that should be wound up and ready to go are your ears.
Only then can you truly practice what's called aggressive listening.
That's right. So often, instead of really listening, we're just waiting for the next pause so we can talk. And our own internal distractions like defensiveness, closed-mindedness, or making assumptions can keep us from really hearing.
Bob and Cheryl are probably the best listeners we've ever come across in our life. They're such objective listeners, is that they really will let us vent sometimes, and they'll absorb everything we're telling them and give us feedback, and we know that they're listening based off of the information they give back to us.
Listening aggressively can really open up a window into another person's life and let you see them clearly, let you hear them clearly.
When I'm working with another couple, I need to kind of go into it and just tell myself, okay, it's time to put away the kids, and not that I can completely clear my mind, but I really do want to listen, and I want to be available when they say something.
The first time we decided we would just let them tell their story. So they told all about their families and how they met and their engagement. And it was fascinating. I mean, as Jim has said, it was really just interesting hearing about this couple and how, the miracle really of them even meeting and blah, blah, blah. So they left, and my daughter, who's good friends with them, called the next day and said, Mom, she said, what on earth did you guys do last night? Tim was so moved, he could not even hardly talk about it, and said that he doesn't ever remember being listened to by adults like he was that night. And as he told his fiance about it, he was getting choked up even telling her about that. And it just blew me away. I never, ever thought that just listening to somebody could make that kind of an impact.
Listening for feelings is also absolutely vital. We call it listening with the third ear.
I believe that you have to really pay attention to the way the couple relates to each other, not just the way not just listening aggressively to what they're saying to us, but how they're speaking to each other and what they're saying to each other.
Listening to them, but also watching their body language as they're communicating together. And you can tell generally when there's something not right. And we can't always put our finger on the pulse of that, but we certainly do try.
And she came up and asked me, she's like, how are you doing? And I said, okay. And she goes, no, you're not. I mean, she could tell from my body language. And she sat there and listened to me talk and get all weepy for a good 45 minutes, even though I'm sure she had spent very little time with her husband that day, and she was willing to just listen to me.
A big part of listening with the third ear is reflecting the feelings of the person who's speaking. Now, if you've ever tried to do this before, you already know that it can seem a little awkward at first. But once you've seen the benefits firsthand, you'll be amazed at the effect it can have.
You have to not only listen to the words, but try to feel the emotion that's coming through those words. And sometimes maybe that's a little easier for women, I don't know, but we try to listen really carefully to the words and then say, well, what I hear you saying or what I sense in that is that you feel
it sounds like you feel.
There are dozens and dozens of lead-ins like these that can help you when you're reflecting feelings. Here are just a handful of them.
It sounds like you're feeling.
I get a picture of.
Could it be that?
I'm wondering if you're thinking.
It seems as if.
It must have been.
And the classic, what I hear you saying is. What's really remarkable about this kind of listening is it lets the mentoree's hidden feelings percolate to the top. So often, couples find it hard to say too much about their hurt or anger or even anxiety. It's easy for them to hide it behind a smile.
And frankly, listening with the third ear creates an incredibly safe environment, an environment where it's much easier to let down the defensive walls that can build up.
Because we, the mentor couple, are there. They tend to be, your mentoree couple tends to be more polite with each other. And so sometimes it's the first time that they will sit and listen to the other get through a whole story or their whole set of feelings about something they're dealing with.
They're afraid that maybe they might hurt the other person's feeling, or it might be an explosion. And so we've created a place by asking good questions, by being very receptive, very honest with them about our problems, that they can begin to risk bringing those subjects out into the open.
As a mentor, you might find yourself feeling a little uncomfortable with the idea of bringing out people's hidden feelings, anxieties, and wondering what you'd do with them if they did come out. But remember, your role as a mentor isn't to rescue.
Right, and just listening is a powerful way to say, we believe in you and your marriage.
It's like saying we trust you to come up with your own solutions.
Oftentimes, the couples then kind of look at each other and say, well, I didn't know. Is that the way you feel? I didn't realize that.
Because ultimately, you want them to do the problem solving, right? Because then it's going to stick. You don't want to just dole out the advice.
That really has been one of the more difficult parts of being a mentor, and really learning how to just slow down and really take in. Again, it goes back to the empathizing and really listening to the whole problem, and then trying to throw out some options and suggestions without trying to solve the problem.
One thing is for sure, that listening aggressively, listening with the third ear, is one of the most important tools for getting your mentorees to open their hearts. And that's the best way, the only way really, for real transformation to take place.